65% of the buying process is usually done before you ever get there, before they ever meet with you face to face. What do you think that means? Yes. They've been online for hours. They've searched for hours. They know the neighborhoods. They're looking on all the different sites and Zillows and all this stuff. And so if there's 65% there already, there's nothing wrong with a little extra pressure to help move them across the finish line.
Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years, and our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
I was studying some stuff for actually car salesman people, just seeing how mindset works, some stuff that Grant Cardone had, and it really resonated with me with what we see here in our business over and over and over. And it's basically 10 things that stop salespeople from being great, right? 10 things that stop closers from being good. And it's something that I think that we run into all the time. I'm gonna break them down for us just because it's something that I constantly see over and over and over. 2 of them I think are really big in regards to what we come into. And so it really is the 10 things to break it down. Number 1 is here's the one thing I see. Number 1, they never attempt to close. What do you think that means? Where's this happen at?
At the end of the presentation, on the phone, everywhere, in the house.
Yeah, we see it happen on the phone a lot. We see it happen in the presentation a lot, but more, I think where most of the money's lost with our groups, we're pretty good at the basic stuff, but I think where a lot of the money's lost at is in the house. Do you like it? Look at it, and a lot of times they're just waiting for you're waiting for the buyer to tell you, hey, look, we got to have this house. We want it. Jumping up and down, right? And so they're waiting for them to be overjoyed, and they're usually hoping that they're not scared and have any buyer's remorse. And so I think there's so many times that we could get the extra push and go for extra closes here, and that's when that really stood out to me for sure. Obviously, here on the phone all the time. We did some auditing last week, and guess what? There's multiple times that people are going through, they're not even asking for their appointment. Times that people are set up on emails when they're local, they didn't even ask for the appointment. And so that's just something that goes back to what we talked about last week and the week before, that needs to be pure discipline, right? We talked about, I think it's 2 or 3 weeks ago, we talked about that salespeople live on the discipline of following the process even if they don't feel like it, okay? And so that's also, and we'll talk about this in a minute, deeper part is that they're not doing the right trial closes and asking the right closes through the process to help really tie them down mentally and have them where they're overjoyed in making that decision as they push forward. This could be true on the sales side, on the listing side, right? Also, in the reality of the buyer side. There's so many times I was in appointments and I was thinking in my head, there's no way in hell these people are ever going to sign with me. But I follow the process, ask the questions, close, all of a sudden the back end, they're signing paperwork. And so it has to just make sure that you're following the discipline. We've been really kind of hitting on this lately, but if I had to look at one opportunity for everyone in here is how do you get better at asking for the close in the houses? How can you get better at pushing? What's some examples you guys could do? Any idea?
I think one that I think is really effective is teaching people how to make smart offers in homes they don't want. That way when they get to the one they do, if they want to lowball it, you can just blow them out of the water and be like, well, I'm really confused. All these others that were 5s, we're talking about going with 98% out of the close based on the neighborhood. Now we're in the one you love and you want to make an 80% offer. I think that's a really simple way to build those smaller agreements and then close in not such you're not building 20,000 in value in 10 seconds.
Yes, and that's kind of the other discipline too, is you got to constantly, especially in the marketplace right now, we got to constantly be building value and urgency. Every single property we go to, I have 2 goals: build value and build urgency. Why is that? Because they're going to need an extra. You can't build $15,000 in value in 15 minutes. Just not possible, right? So the reality is going to build $15,000 in value over 4 or 5 houses. Or obviously 4 or 5 months. I've been working with it for a while. But that's constantly done through third-party stories. And this other thing here is just how can I watch their body language, watch the way they react to make sure I can help ask the right questions for them to make that move. I'm going to pre-frame them one. Hey, look, when you guys see the one that you want, I need you guys to make sure that you tell me right then and there, this is the one. I set the pre-frame around that, and then once I start seeing those buying signs, guess what I'm going to start doing? Asking for the close. And so when you're looking at this today, where am I not asking for the close in the right places? Where am I not watching? Because I just think that you see, especially real estate agents across the board, they become order takers. They wait for the person to give them the order. And so true closers close right then when they see buying signals in the property. Make sense, you guys, on that? Pretty simple shit there, but it's important to remember, a great reminder. Number 2, pressure is perceived as a bad thing. What do you think that means?
I mean, I've even heard it with folks coming in here where they thought, oh, well, you guys are a high pressure organization, and there is a negative spin to it, but the reality is people's emotions will almost self-sabotage because they're afraid.
Yes.
So they need that pressure.
Yes, 100%.
Agents, like, I'm not salespeople, I'm just friends or helping them find a house. It's not like,
Right, and that's not a true what? A salesperson or an influencer or a coach, right? Coaching consultant. You know, I'm about to get on a plane today, fly all the way across the country so I can have a coach pressure me to do what I need to do. Period, right? I pay a lot of money for that. And the same thing that they do in that regard, if you're a true advisor to them, right? Back to the order taker, they don't want to do pressure, but somebody who's a true closer and influencer who can really advise people has to be able to put pressure on there. And that's one of the things that Grant talked about too, is that he says most people who are worried about pressure, guess what? It's a story that's a self-fulfilling prophecy from themselves. And so they're so worried about pressure that they tend to mirror that, right? Or they project that onto someone else, and so then it becomes bad. And so with the right pressure, with the right process of follow-up, pressure is a good thing. But it's all about your perspective and how you see these things, because people need pressure. We all need pressure. Or we don't make decisions. And what happens when you don't make decisions? You sit there and stay idle until life tackles you pretty much. In my life, much more of bad things have happened from me not making a decision than me making the wrong decision. Everywhere. It happens for everybody, every part of their life. And so the more you realize that, and the more you understand that, the more you're able to help these people make that. But if I had to see one of the big rev limiters for salespeople that I've seen come in here over the years, they have a fear of pressure. We all need pressure, and most of that is because they can't handle pressure. And so as they mirror that, they're scared to go down that route, and they're scared to go down that path. But ultimately, we all need that to help make a big decision, especially when they're buying something $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. Again, they're not buying a Best Buy TV here for a few $100. Is there going to be fear? Absolutely. Is there going to be people being scared and hesitant? Absolutely. But we have to be able to provide that pressure there when they need it in the right area at the right time. Does that make sense?
I think both of these are based on fear. I think, just the pressure that is perceived as a bad thing. I think that they're maybe afraid that they're going to lose the client, lose their trust, what have you.
Yep.
But really, if you have enough in your pipeline and you view yourself as an expert and you are really selling them on the benefits of whatever home that they're in, that's not really even going to come into play if you do your job right.
Yeah, and a part of that, I don't feel like I ever put pressure on. I feel like I just do my job because I'm so sold on what we do that I got to move them from point A to point B.
Absolutely.
And so I'll have you all consider the pressure is really just a story in your head. It's not necessarily pressure, just me providing the guidance that they need to go down the right path at the right time at the right speed. And so I think that's just something to look at and really dig in, because here's the thing, that's the difference between people who sell 15, 20 houses a year and 40 to 50 houses a year, period. Or, on the selling side, 75, 100. The reality is you cannot get past that barrier of 15 houses without having pressure. Why is that? Because people make decisions. And you see it happen all the time. We'll talk to somebody, the next thing you know, what happened? And then what happens?
They gotta blame you.
No, they ghost, and then what they do? They already bought from somebody else. Like, how the hell did that person get them? Guess what? They apply the right pressure at the right time in the right place. Listing side all the time, right? We go try listing there. They're not quite ready yet. They got to think about it. Next week, 3 days later, they already list somebody else. How does that happen? Pressure, right? They need that, and they're obviously there to make a decision. Now, I was reading something, actually a part of this, that Grant Cardone talks about, that 65% of the buying process is usually done before you ever get there, before they ever meet with you face to face. What do you think that means? Yes. They've been online for hours. They've searched for hours. They know the neighborhoods. They're looking on all the different sites and Zillows and all this stuff. And so if there's 65% there already, there's nothing wrong with a little extra pressure to help move them across the finish line. And that's what they expect deep down. Like I talked about before, when I had the insurance agent who was just basically just trying to give me the cheapest package, I don't need that. I need somebody to tell me what's best for me and have the guts to do so. And so that's the key part here to make sure you're looking at in that part. Number 3, they're unwilling to deal with emotions. What do you think that means? What makes people buy or sell? Emotions. Right? Emotions. So the problem is what most people, they're scared to go to the darkness. They're scared to go to the pain. They'll tiptoe around it 100 times, 100 ways, but they won't go down the rabbit hole of pain. And how them not making a decision can affect their marriage. And how it can potentially lead to divorce. And all these pieces that really play a part of that if you're able to help go through that. And we deconstructed that in a few examples before. The one, your buddy, the guy with the baby, whatever it was, right, live with mommy. That was a perfect example of that. But you've got to be willing to go there to create the leverage needed for them to make the right decision. But if I look at average salespeople, they're always scared here. They just stay on the surface. And I found this over time as I've gotten good about doing this, especially being a part of Warrior and understanding emotions a lot better, is that the deeper I go, guess what? The more they love me. Because I'm helping them uncover pain they don't even know about. And so that's just something I think that you want to really measure yourself at today. We're going through this on a scale of 1 to 10. How good am I at each one of these? What's one reason that this is separate? This is kind of a Warrior tool here that we talked about before. What keeps you from going down that hole right here? Yep. Number 1, they're a liar. So if I'm not living by the code, right, and living in truth, I'm not going to go down that hole with them. Why do you think that is? I don't want to be exposed. So if I'm a liar and I'm not living by the truth, right, living by the code in life, and really just being real and raw with it, I'm going to be scared to go down that emotional hole. It's just a natural thing that people have. It's a defense mechanism that people do in the liars. And here's the deal, most people naturally are liars about everything. To themselves, to their family, to friends. And so the reality is, the more I live in the code, the more power I have, the deeper I can go in that hole and hold my space. Does that make sense? And so that's the one thing to think about is, am I living by the code? And that's kind of one thing. What's the code again?
Real, raw,
right? Real, raw, relevant. Real means what? 100% real, raw about everything. Real about the facts. I live in a place of facts. I tell the truth every day, even when it's not convenient. To myself, to those I care about, to those around me. Second part is raw. What's that mean? It's close to real, but yeah, I'm willing to address my feelings about it too. So not only am I truthful and open about the facts of life and the facts of my life and the facts of my circumstance at the current moment, I'm also going to be able to be okay and be in tune with my feelings about it. Am I pissed about it? Am I angry about it? Am I happy about it? Whatever it is, I got to be able to have that emotional bandwidth to go back and forth to be able to connect with people. Does that make sense? So if I'm a liar and I shut everything off and I posture all the time, what happens? I don't have any bandwidth. I'm just one way all the time. And people can feel that. Does that make sense? And relevance, how do I tie that together with relevance to them, to myself, whatever it is in that regard? The most important part is to quit lying about anything. If you learn anything here, that's what the secret of life is, in my opinion, just being real and raw about everything. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And so that's going to allow you to see that in others because you can see it in yourself. If I lie about everything, everything's so good on the outside, but deep down I'm dying on the inside, I'm not going to be able to see that and expose that in people. Does that make sense, you guys? And so that's a sidetrack there, but that's a secret weapon in sales because I can see through their. And we talked about this before, is once you live by the code and you start living this way, you start seeing in other people, man, they're full of shit. They're lying about this. And I can deconstruct the entire system of their life just by talking to them a few minutes because why I'm in tune with it. Does that make sense, you guys there? And so it's all about reading the energy of how they are and what's going on in that aspect. And so that allows me to have a deeper part of my people. And so here's the thing. How deep am I willing to go? Am I truly taking my people to their pain? Because here's the thing. There was not some pain in their life they wouldn't be sitting in front of you. Period. They wouldn't have called us up, wouldn't be on the website, wouldn't have called a salesperson. All those things matter in that regard. So it's our job to hunt that down and find it. Number 4, different wrong marker. Number 4, a lack of belief in the product. A lack of belief in the product. For us, it's our product and what we actually have in the Unfair Advantage, home buying system, and also the guaranteed sold system for sellers. There's 2 fields of it. The second one, in my opinion, is Myrtle Beach. Right? Do you believe that this is a great place to live and for people to have? And if not, you need to figure out a way to like it. There's a guy named that used to work here. Mark hated Myrtle Beach. Talked about how Myrtle Beach was. Right? And so guess where he does not live anymore? Myrtle Beach. And guess what he does not do? Real estate, right? Or work, right? But yeah. But the reality is, there has to, and I would notice it about him, and I kept trying to diagnose what was wrong with him, what was wrong. Why is he not selling? So I started digging in, and he hates Myrtle Beach. I'm like, dude, you can't sell a dream here if you don't like Myrtle Beach.
He's from Fort Lauderdale, to his credit.
But part of that is all the stories that people have. Right? Are they believing stories what other people have? Believing stories that they have about this or that, about violence or whatever you see on the news. Like, you got to really fall in love with the area. I know every time I travel, I miss home like crazy. And so there's a reason that millions of people are coming here every year. And most of the time, if we grew up here, haven't seen other places too bad. Right? You go live in Darlington for a week or two, and you'd be loving Myrtle Beach. I mean, it's important to understand that. And so the reality is you got to have the confidence in that. Second thing is about our system here. That's the hardest thing for me as having new agents who haven't really worked anywhere else, is they don't have any systems. They don't have presentation charts that do everything like that. They don't have anything, and so you really don't really understand the importance of it, so you skip over the presentation that helps the client like and trust you. And so back to that, am I truly study the presentation of every block, understanding the why behind it, like why these words are in here, and the more you go and the deeper you go, the more you understand how powerful the presentation is. And so that's the key part I want you guys to understand. Again, gauge yourself on, it's like, all right, where am I at 1 to 10 on this? Because that's usually some holes that are costing you sales in the back end. As I was going through all these, I was just thinking of each person in this place. Ooh, they could deal this one pretty bad. This is what's holding them back here. And so everyone in this room is held back by one of these at some point. Right now, in that regard. So, number 5, an incorrect estimation of effort. Incorrect estimation of effort. What do you think that means?
I think this is one that's going to be true for a lot of people.
Yeah, this is probably the biggest one for our organization. Is there's a lot of people who will come in and just be like, I made my 100 calls, I did real estate today.
Yes. And this is my notes. I wrote personal notes on this. That salespeople naturally just do enough. They underestimate the effort it takes to be successful. They underestimate the amount of times you have to ask for the sale. They underestimate the amount of follow-ups you have to touch them with. How many touches does it take to get the person from New Jersey to like and love me and want to buy with me and only me? If I'm calling 50% of my bucket, I'm not really going to have the amount of touches needed. This goes back to that 10X book too. Talks about is like everyone tends to underestimate the amount of effort in everything. Closes, people need to be closed 5, 6, 7 times to be able to get the results that you need based on obviously what type of close it is. And these are small things like, hey, let's do this. You guys ready to move forward? Let's go. That's one simple thing. Hey, let's do this. They're just on the edge. They need the extra close, whatever it is. That's something that's super important. I think that so many people are missing out on that's holding them back for sure. I wrote trial closes, hard closes, and asking for the sales. All the way down to how many times you call your lead and how often you're touching them. I think really, especially having a non-local type business here, being in a vacation destination, we truly underestimate the amount of touches that are needed for non-local people. 2 weeks is a minimum. People barely hit 2 weeks. Meanwhile, somebody else is slipping in your people's DMs and they're getting your people. And next thing you know, well, we already bought something. We already bought something. Everybody in this room pretty much had that. Right? Guess what it is? Underestimation of how many times they need to be touched. I think Austin, you said you're calling new leads in there to like 4 or 5 people in 1 week that I just bought, right? Yeah. Guess what? And everybody else here, well, we've been, oh, so-and-so else is calling the leads, right? I'm calling, there's been 5 people already called them. Well, guess what? Not enough because we have 5 people in 1 week that bought from somebody else. Back to the point of number 5, an incorrect estimation of effort. And that could be the success here. This is the base quota, right? $500 a week or whatever it is, underestimation of that amount. It could also be underestimation of the amount of follow-up on the back end. That's something I think that was important there as well. 80% of sales happen between 5 and 12 follow-ups. And one of the examples I was looking at, that how are you underestimating one way to talk to your people is 90% of people in here are just calling and texting. How many times are you sending individual bombs to your people? How many times are you pulling out your phone and sending a voice note to them via text message? Not enough, for damn sure. And so it goes back to the underestimation. And for everyone here, where am I underestimating the amount of effort I need in my follow-up? Am I getting creative? Am I doing the individual bombs? Not a mass email to everybody in my bucket, one where I'm specifically saying their name and I show a piece of paper with their name on it in front of the camera so they know they look at it, open it, and read it, or listen to it. Does that make sense? Where am I underestimating that? Because that's something that's super important, I think, from that regard.